Hello guys and welcome back to another video where today I'm going to be doing a magic trick with a person you know. 3, 2, 1, go. Hello guys.
Hello everybody.
And welcome back to another video where today we are going to be talking about
software, or in this case, old software. So in games, it's not odd to get stuck with software that you use that becomes a little outdated. I brought this up because you will see that we are using outdated software. If you guys have used the tools for a long time, one thing you'll notice is that I'm using Flash, and Flash is technically gone. And then Flash uses a programming language called ActionScript 3, which is possibly on the way out. So we wanted to address these things and then explain why or why not you'd use them.
Yeah, and Espanol uses a language called Espanol.
I don't even know what that means. Any questions thus far, though? I have my helpful art director here to ask any questions or give any good comments that maybe I would miss. Anything? Do you have any?
Why is it hard to use technology?
Oh, because it's constantly changing. That's the problem. Every time you learn something, all of a sudden something different comes. So today, then we're going to focus on why we're using what we're using and maybe kind of relate it to what you have. So getting back to the actual animation software, we have Flash. And like I said, it's gone. Now, the key to understanding Flash is it is not Flash Player. So when you go to a website and they want you to update your Flash, that is different than what we're using here. That has definitely gone away. Well, it actually hasn't gone away. You can still use it, but will go away because a lot of browsers are dropping it. Because in the old days, you had to use these plugins called the Flash Player to show video. Now, with HTML5, you don't need to do that. But that is different from Flash, which is what we're using. Now, Flash, the reason why Flash is gone is that Adobe has improved it and smushed it together with their version of Edge, and now we have Adobe Animate. So, to be honest, Adobe Animate will read an old Flash file. So we're actually safe on this end because even though we're using old technology, it will bring it in correctly. Right?
Yes.
So far, so good. So we're okay with that if we want to make the game in this. Okay, so should we go to ActionScript? So before I go on to ActionScript, what I do want to say is that game makers always run into this problem. They'll find a better game engine, they'll create a better game engine, but most of the time that when people switch game engines in the middle of a project or making a game, let's just simplify to that, they lose money. They almost never makes money. For you all who are 75% done with your game and you're thinking about switching to doing it in another one, it better be a really close or easy switch to go to that new game engine or piece of software. Otherwise, I think you're going to end up on the short end of the stick. Our current belief is that we're going to do this in Flash and use ActionScript 3. Now, I also said that ActionScript 3, which is a
language for Flash.
That's right, a programming language. So that's how we're actually going to create the interactivity there. ActionScript 3 worked really well with the Flash Player. Now, since the Flash Player is on its way out, ActionScript 3 seems to be on its way out. I'm not 100% sure, and the reason being is that ActionScript 3 can still be converted using Adobe Air, and you can make all these mobile games with them. So in other words, with ActionScript 3, you still can go to iOS, you can still go to good old-fashioned Windows, and you can still go to Android. That won't change. And the reason why that's a good thing because a lot of people are starting to switch to JavaScript here using Adobe Animate. That's great if you're going to use HTML5. Now, why you wouldn't want to use HTML5 is because it is not going to be native on any of the devices that you use. And do you know what native means?
Native Americans.
No, it does not. It does not mean the people who were here when we visited America. What native means is that you doesn't have to bring up a browser. HTML5 always has to bring up a browser. In other words, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, Opera, Google Chrome. All of these guys you need one of them in order to run HTML5, and that can be problematic, A, because of the multiple browser situation, and B, sometimes it's the way you dimension your game is going to be messed up because the way you're going to do it in HTML5 versus the way you do it on a native language. Native can do full screen a lot easier and better. Okay, any questions thus far?
Why don't they all just use the same language for all the programs?
That would be an awesome thing, but the problem with programming languages is they start off with, believe it or not, a very small amount. In fact, you could argue even one was on the first computer, and therefore they should just kept with it. But the problem is that somebody said, I want to make a game with programming language. Another guy says, I want to do databasing with programming language. Another guy says, I want to do maybe some math thing like Excel or Quattro. And in that case, the people develop their own language to do specific things. Okay. So the desire to get specialized languages that handled something better actually created an offshoot, and then computer scientists themselves that's a fun thing for them to make. So if you can create a new language, why not do it, and then you get your name in lights. Wouldn't that be nice?
No.
No. But it would be nice to have just one solid language. Not anti-HTML5, but I'm not a big fan of HTML5 just from the basic standpoint of it's a very incomplete language. It needs JavaScript, it needs PHP, it needs CSS to run and do anything worthwhile. And that's not where we're at.
No, we're not.
No, so we'd like to avoid HTML5 if at all possible, but we also understand that a lot of games, in fact, Adobe Animate says that I think over half the stuff they make or their customers make on their software is for HTML5, which I understand because the only way to get on the web is HTML5.
True.
That sounds unfair though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think they shouldn't do that.
They shouldn't do anything.
Okay. So any other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So then the last question is should we keep going with this here? And one of my statements here was switching in the middle is a bad thing, but believe it or not, we could switch here without losing too much money. And the reason being is that what you're seeing in front of us, our game, is a
game.
Is a prototype. It's not a full-fledged game. So we're just trying to get the basic mechanics and interactivity correct before we take it somewhere else. So we have the ability to jump tracks, but you have to do that early on. So in other words, if I was trying to dot all my I's and polish this, that is not the time to rethink the game engine. But I would say within the next few months, we're going to have to think about, okay, this has definitely got to be in either Adobe Animate, Flash,
Or JavaScript.
or JavaScript or Unity or something like that. We actually have to come up with that and then roll with it, because otherwise I'm going to have to rewrite a lot of code depending on where it's going to end up. And also even the animations are going to have to be rethought.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, says David.
Not good.
Which is not good. So any other thoughts before we head on out?
Any other thoughts?
So hopefully we helped you with your software decisions. Feel free to leave a comment and agree or disagree. What would you like to add?
Goodbye.
And goodbye. We'll see you next time.